Yeah, I wanted to start on time. We're about a
Yeah,
minute late. There's some there's some AR people out there that might anal retentive people that might be upset with it.
yeah,
Hey, what's going on, everybody? The wait is over. We took a short vacation, because of the holidays. But Smoking and Joking, episode 63. Join us for an inspiring conversation. We have retired Chief Warrant Officer 5, Patrick Nelligan, a decorated Army Reserve leader with a passion for helping veterans and tackling the suicide crisis. With a distinguished career spanning the decades and a heart for service, Chief Warrant Officer 5, CW 5, Nelligan shares powerful insights on leadership, resilience, and his mission to make a difference. So don't miss out. Everybody come tune in. Stop by the smoke pit, smoking if you got them. And I'm gonna go ahead and pass the microphone to uh, uh, Mr. Nelligan. What do you want us to call you on this? You want us to call you Pat? You want us to call you
well,
Nelligan?
you and I, are in the brotherhood of the profession of arms. It's funny. I've been out now almost a year, and I still can't lose the moniker of chief, because for the better part of my entire adult life, I've been a chief warrant officer. So it's just one of those things that sticks. My mother, Patrick, but for my entire life, it's been Pat, and that's how you met me years ago. So whatever comes out of your mouth, I'll answer to. It's your show, and I'm just really happy to be here, tell our story.
All right, Pat. I've spoken like I've always known you, very, very down to earth, which I think we met at UConn, right?
Yeah.
Let's take the people back through
Sure.
how we met. Uh, UConn, at the time, you were selling a product called, you want to tell the name of the product?
Sure. So let me just ask you, because I was trying to look back. What year did you go through? Do you recall?
Ooh, I want to say it's either 2012 or 2013.
Oh,
It's been a long time.
so it was 2013, because I went through in 2011, and
Okay.
I fell in love with the program specifically because of the main mission, which is unique because that's what you're doing. Talk about paying it forward. But we take veterans that have had, rated disabilities rated by the VA, who have the entrepreneurial bug DNA, and we put them through 9 days of on-site boot camp through the entrepreneurial boot camp for veterans with disabilities, started by Mike Haney at the Syracuse University, ballooned out to as many as 1.11 universities throughout the country. The person that was running UConn, the late Mike Zakea, combat wounded, medically retired Lieutenant Colonel Marine, very, very well respected, had a book written about him. Well, anyway, Mike was one of those guys that you talk about selfless service. He did it in uniform, and then he basically lived for the EBV program. So I met Mike through a mutual friend. I found out about this program, and at the time, I was pretty much starting my journey into entrepreneurship. And while I was in grad school, I was challenged by my professor to write a thesis for a simple solution to a common problem, and that was it. So up here in the Northeast, which in looking in the sun in your background, you have no worries about. We have these things called nor'easters, which is a combination of snow, rain, sleet, and they just wreak havoc on your car, especially your wiper blades, because once the snow comes and then the rain, now it freezes. So your wiper blades are pretty much glued to the windshield, or as you're driving, they clump up. So after many, many trials and errors, I came up with a sleeve. And because I was really buying into the whole, you've got to make something unique that has both the name that people remember and a function that people enjoy. So that was the birth of the wiper booty. And the wiper
Yeah. Wipe the booty.
booty became a internet sensation because I went and listed it on Amazon, and I had it, a website, wiperbooties.com, and I had a superhero named Booty Man who would swipe in when the wiper to the windshield and slide in these booties on top of the wipers, and all of a sudden the wipers would be like, "Thank you, Booty Man, you saved us," and fly away. Yeah, I mean, I took it to just absolute extremes, and in the EBV portion, I won the best pitch competition because not only was it a functional thing, but it was fun, and I had the judges
Mhm.
just rolling with my slapstick of have you put your booty on today and whatever. So anyway, that was my start, but I had such a good time in my classmates because there were 25 of us. Tor, there were some in there, much like your class, although we started to get a little more selective. But that's my first year. We had some truly challenged veterans. Like they
Yep.
had to keep taking time out during the day to go back to the hotel to take
Yep.
naps. Their beds were messed up. So while we were trying to give them hope, they were struggling with the fact that just life, was a challenge, let alone starting their own business. Well, anyway, to see somebody come from an epiphany to an idea to something I think I could try, and 9 days later have a business plan, a business pitch, a website, a trademark, legal support for 2 years, all those things that came in the EBV package, it was life changing. And as you know, not only did that take you through the confidence you needed, but if you listened and you networked properly, you were never going to be alone again on your
Oh
business
yeah.
journey. And
Oh yeah.
that's we celebrated 15 years. You and I were at the event, and we have some very successful alumni, like multi-millionaire successful alumni. And we've all made a pledge that we're going to keep that program running, not just in memory of Mike, but the fact is there are the wiper booty guys of the future out there. There's the 365, start your own business employment initiatives that you're doing. But at the end of the day, I will quote you from what Mike Zakea used to, constantly say that I've adopted. Why we spend so much time getting veterans confident and capable to start their own business is there's no other employer but a veteran employer that truly understands a
Yep.
veteran employee. So by making them successful, we could move minions on the fact that you can go work for a veteran employer and nobody but him understands post-traumatic stress, TBIs, any type of things that are causing you uh, life issues that are attributed to your service. Who better than me to be able to understand and get you help? So that's why I keep doing it. I didn't do as much wiper booties for the last like 6 years because the op tempo I was running with the Army just kept me incredibly busy. And then the last 3.5 years, I was down in Washington as command chief of the Army Reserve. There's no way I'm selling wiper booties. It's just too much
Yeah.
of a legit.
Yeah.
But I'm bringing them back because we've been blessed. It hasn't really been bad weather up here in New England. But I've got par levels that I just ordered, so I'll be bringing them back. People want them. It's fun. It's like the only business I can run in my pajamas, going into the basement, getting an order of sleeves, stick them in an envelope to go help some needy customers. So yeah, gonna do something with that again, but not just yet. Got another journey you're gonna talk to me about that's got more important precedent right now.
Yeah. Let's move into that. I want to say the one thing that I noticed about you, Pat, is that you've always had the energy and in the vibes to where you're going to fix something. You recognize, you identify a problem, then you focus on the solution with with a warrior's energy. So there's a lot of other products that we talked about that you've been a part of. There's a I don't want to get into yesteryear, but with the handguns. Remember you were telling me about the special lock you
Oh,
were able.
that's
Yeah.
still going on too, Tor. So another common, so there's two sides of the coin. I'll just blow this real quick. Take me 30 seconds. So I worked with a person who was in the firearms industry, specifically on the fact that gun owners, responsible gun owners that want to live within the rules of their particular state or within the federal guidelines, get crucified based on a system that is not only archaic, it's inaccurate. And I'm talking about, you could do a form here in Connecticut where I sell you my handgun. We do everything by the numbers. It gets sent into the state, which, by the way, the only way they accept it is if you mail it in or fax. And if there's any type of inputting that's wrong by the state employee, you now have an inaccurate record, and the state can show up at your door and literally do an audit of your guns. And if your serial numbers are wrong, you're the one that has to prove they were wrong. So they call them oh shit days, because if the state comes with those forms and they're incorrect, it's oh shit. So the gist of it was, I automated the entire process for buying and selling firearms, 12 years prior to anybody even thinking about it, where you could use electronic signature, electronic storage of records, electronic submission, an encrypted PDF, and we nailed it. Like, I got the law changed in Connecticut. I self-lobbied to get them to allow us to do that. And then state went into financial crisis, and they're still using the same system. But, you only have so much bandwidth in a day. So while that's still kind of chugging along, I've introduced AI into it. So this is something that could work from a gun manufacturer all the way to a gunsmith, to when they destroy weapons. It allows absolutely point of sale on your iPhone, point of destruction, and it's pretty cool. So I'm talking to a few states, because Connecticut is really hard, obviously, because of the tragedies we've had, Newtown and the shootings, of adopting this at the state level. And then, I've talked to the FBI, I've talked to several leaders in Congress, and they want it, but they want a working model. So that's almost like the wiper booty thing. Yeah, I was up there. I never thought I would be a lobbyist till I needed to lobby, and I got them to change the law. So that's kind of cool to put on the resume of what you do in your life.
I love that.
But it's still out there, more to follow. But the inevitable piece is, you and I have peers that are thinking about attempting and succeeding and taking their own life. And I can't buy, as neither can you, and let that happen a day more. So I'm on
Pat, let's move your camera so you're in the middle of the screen a little bit. Perfect. Perfect. Okay, so we have Jimmy King. We're just gonna read some comments before we move on to the next talk. Jimmy King, he wants to know: did you sell wiper booties to the DOD if they'll pay $5,000 for a hammer?
So the funny part is, my first design of the wiper booty was an 11-inch wiper booty, specifically for the Humvees, because you've been in a few, Tor, we do an atrocious job of preventive maintenance when it comes to the things that you're supposed to be continuously monitoring. And what happens to your booties over in the Middle East when you have 145-degree glass in your windshield? The rubber just disintegrates.
Yep.
So here was my challenge. The answer was, up until the point I realized I was still a federal employee and couldn't do business with the government, and so I couldn't sell them. But I had literally ordered 200 sets for the Connecticut National Guard for their entire up-armored Humvee fleet, and then realized I didn't want to compromise, obviously, my federal job or my government pension from the Army. Right. So they're on hold. But as we move to the next generation of vehicles, that's one of the target audiences when I'm done with the VA, because there's just no way they've changed anything about a wiper blade in the last 100 years that it's going to degrade if you leave it on the windshield for any extended time. You put the booty on, you get 5 more years out of a wiper blade.
Everybody loves booties. Pat,
yes, Pat, they do. Right?
We have so much to cover. It's not all the time we get a guest that has done as much as you. We've had a few great guests, and I always want to let the watchers know. By the way, Jimmy and Reed, thanks for watching. Reed, Jimmy said you're supposed to be hosting. Why are you in the audience? That's what he said. But it's not every day we get such an impactful interview. And what we're going to talk about today, guys, is something that has been. It's a topic that once used to be a hot button item. Everywhere you go, people would talk about it. And Pat, I know we talked yesterday. From you being the commander of the reserve forces, personally what the 22 a day epidemic, I call it epidemic, is doing to veterans right now. So, just let's branch off into that. And I want you to talk about your experience, with the mobilization forces, with the reserve forces, and how you got into what you're doing right now that, is going to help a lot of people get a good night's sleep, first of all, and heal a lot of trauma that they're dealing with.
That was an excellent pitch, actually. If we were back in EBV, I would say you did an excellent lead-in, my friend. What do I need to buy from you? Hey, so okay, let's start with the sobering reality that 22 daily suicides amongst the veteran and military population, military, guard, reserve, active duty, is grossly underreported. Examples being, any of our friends tour that decide life is not worth living, give up hope. They go out and they drive the car at a high rate of speed and they crash and die in a fiery crash. Was it an accident or a suicide? Who knows? Yeah. Family could give no indication there was any warning signs, et cetera, et cetera. So that number, that 22, honestly, has become just a rally cry because it flows. 22 a day. Oh my God, it's tragic. Well, what if it was 23? Is it more tragic? Or if it's 21, is it less tragic? It's just a line in the sand. But what is really startling is when you look at the VA, the Department of Defense, they $9.2 billion a year that they throw at this problem. And there's only 30% or less impactful programs that even get the first iteration of making an assumption that I can figure out what's wrong with you and stop you from going down that rat hole, or if you've attempted going through the recidivism of doing it again. So it doesn't work, and it hasn't worked for many years. And so to make sure your listeners understand, I've been a warrant officer, and in the Army, a warrant officer is considered a technical expert. So I'm by training a medical logistician, medical equipment repairman. So I fix shit that uses on patients, and I move shit around for the Gulf. Enduring Freedom. When we went into Iraq, I built the 4 packages of combat support hospitals that went over the berm when you guys went to kill bad guys. Like, no training. I'm in theater, and I get called up to CFLIC and told, hey, you're the senior logistician for medical maintenance in theater. You own this mission. I'm like, I only came over here to help support. Okay, whatever. So by that baptism by fire, what I'm telling you is I saw a lot of our soldiers come into theater with just a boatload of problems. And they were going to do the job required of them to go over the berm into Iraq. But they were messed up before they even got there. And so you just compound that now with combat, which, you and I know can't be explained in a book, and it can't really be understood by a non-warrior. But you add that to them, and then we bring them home. Mm-hmm. And it's a compounding, sucking sound of anything that they had for hope, direction, what they were going to do before they deployed now means nothing to them. Families go down the toilet, whatever. So as I assimilated up to higher command chief warrant officer positions in 1- and 2-star Army commands, I eventually got to a point where I was seeing what was called the CIOR, was the Commander's Incident and Operational Report. And they do that when something happens with the unit, equipment, and most importantly, personnel. And I would see them from my respective commands, and one of the most disheartening was those weekly reports of our soldiers, our Army reservists, attempting and taking their own life. And, so going through that journey at smaller commands is like, wow, this really sucks. What are we doing about it? And then you hear all of these, well, we've got these annual, employee health surveys, and, we spend all these money on PowerPoint presentations and strong bonds and yellow ribbon and all these things to help you find your way into getting the right support. And to be frank, it was total bullshit. It's not a PowerPoint solution. It's a human, tragic, mental, incredibly bad exposure type of thing. And especially when we were at war for 20 years, it was a rotisserie. I mean, it just kept sending more people, sometimes 2 or 3 deployments. Yeah. So anyway, by the time I became command chief of the Army Reserve in basically 4 years ago, this month I was selected. What became apparent to me was those CIORs that I saw at lower unit levels were literally a almost weekly event on soldiers attempting and taking their life. And this is what was really like eye-opening to me, was there was a lot of misunderstanding on how the demographics worked. Like, I'll tell you, and it's no shock because it's proven to be true in what I've been doing for research. A single white male, 20 to 26, E5 and below, is my biggest demographic that will use a firearm to take their own life, by far. Like, the statistics are so, like, they're the center of the bell curve. That's how many. So that's what, everybody was trying to understand. Well, ironically, and you and I aren't old, but by our age, somebody would argue that comment. How am I going to tell a 17-year-old who's just come back, or actually almost 18 by the time they come back, from their first combat deployment, how to suck it up and get better when I don't even know what drives them? Because it's generational,
Right.
have different value streams. Their support network is on a game console, right?
Yeah.
But they get to a point where now they're taking their own lives, and we sit there and go, "Oh man, that sucks." But we at least know the population. Well, here's the sobering reality for us. While I was command chief, I would see reports where women, soldiers, Army reservists, rank and material, officers, warrant officers, sergeants enlisted, were taking their life. And now the second misconception was, well, women, if they attempt suicide, they're vain. They're never going to leave themselves ugly even when they're dead. So, it was not a joke. It was absolutely not funny. But you could hear stories about women that put makeup on and then overdosed on pills. Right? They still died, but they looked really good doing it. So I had that stuck in my head. That's, oh my God, women are going to do that. No. During my tenure, I would get reports that said women handguns, women hanging. And so I'm trying to let my leadership, or is this a new pattern? And again, there's an aloofness there. Well, our numbers aren't as bad as they were in the past. You just had 4 women in the month of May kill themselves, and that doesn't strike you as odd?
Yeah.
So I was on a little bit of a crusade, if you will, cognizant that I'm still in a leadership position. As the command chief of the Army Reserve, my battle buddies are the command sergeant major and the 3-star general. So I'm way out of my lane if I get too deep into something that isn't really culturally something they're focused on. But screw it. I'm a warrant officer. I need to figure it out. Well, in 2 years in a row, in the month of May, 4 females took their lives. 2 gunshots, 2 hangings. So I'm going to challenge you, Tor. What's so special about May?
What's so special about May?
Yeah, the month of May, that females would group together to kill themselves.
Mother's Day.
Bingo.
Yeah.
It took you 2 seconds. It took me 3 years to try to get somebody to notice. We probably should be looking to up our mental health and our buddy system for our soldiers. Especially, I took over while we were still in the middle of COVID. So now we have isolated women. And, it was just one of those deals where it seemed like a blip on the radar and nobody gave it the thought they should. So I was angry. So as I endured these times in the seat, I think I got a lot of insider trading in how futile the VA and the DOD's attempt at going after suicide was. So on March 31st of 2024, I retired after 42 years, 3 weeks, and 2 days of total service. Straight through. Joined at 17, done at 59. And on that day, I declared war on suicide in the military and the veteran community. And why I did it that day is can I tell that backstory about my friend Court? Okay.
Definitely.
So one of my very good friends, fellow warrant officer, worked for me years ago, many times actually, several times. He brilliant guy, 6 Sigma, 420 Alpha, which is human resources personnel, works for Fortune 50 insurance companies. Well, while I was command chief of the Army Reserve, Court was recalled to active duty to run the integration of IPSA, Integrated Pay and Personnel System Army, for the Army Reserve and the active duty, because he was that good. Well, anyway, through my relationship with Court through the years, I got to know his family, wonderful wife Cindy, and one of his sons joined the Army, active duty, infantry, went to Ranger School, didn't make it, but still solid soldier, just like his dad. Started having some problems, unbeknownst to dad, physical problems, mental health problems, marital problems. And I remember it vividly. I was in San Antonio on a mission, and I get a call on Easter from Court Martial at 2:00 in the morning, and his son Cameron had taken his own life. No warning signs, but now retrospectively, as Court works through the eaches of what we know now versus what nobody knew, there were plenty of warning signs, but we couldn't do anything about it. Because as a dad and as a fellow soldier and as a cultural thing, Court's son was screaming for help, but nobody knew what the volume of the screams meant, and nobody that was around him knew that it was that dire. Wow. So as I watched my friend suffer through this incredible tragedy, my final year as a command chief, that's when I said, we're going after this. So he and I joined arms and said, we're going to kick some ass and we're going to figure this out. So that's been our journey literally since June. And what we started with, if I can continue, just kind of like,
yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
What we started with was screw the 22, one suicide's too many. And what's, as warrant officers, root cause analysis, why? So you'll hear kind of like the backstory on, oh my God, Tor, great guy. Yeah, he was having some marital problems and he put a gun to his head. Well, we know you had marital problems. Anybody that knows you knows you're a great guy and shit happens. I'm a product of deployment divorce. Never saw it coming, came back. It was the worst year of my life. I went through a deployment. My father called me and said, I've got cancer, and was dead within a year, and I get divorced. So I called it the 3 Ds of my gut kicking. So we all had traumas. But the point was, as much as my pain and suffering was rampant in that time in my life, thank God I never went to the level of thinking that I was better off dead than alive. Right. Unfortunately, a lot of our peers that have gone through this experience that we call the military have had 2 things happen to them right out of the gate. They came into a culture that forced sleep deprivation.
Yep.
And we taught them how to be lethal.
Yep.
So park that for a second. Let me go back to the original start of the journey, June, July. Let's figure out a solution set for everything that a veteran could possibly say would put them on a downward spiral. So financial, right? How many of our friends and former battle buddies are just terrible at money management, or for some ungodly reason, they can't hold on a job or they can't keep their shit straight. And then they find a in financial crisis where they make the most tragic decision, which is my family's better off with my life insurance, my SGLI, than they are with me alive because I'm a failure. Boom. So we started working that path first, financial. I met a guy named Charlie Epstein. He's all over YouTube, Facebook. He's Mr. 401k. He did a one-man play called Yield of Dreams. So I called him up and I'm like, look, I got to plan on my Army retirement and can you help me? And so he did this whole sit down with my wife. My wife loved him, which was enough. Now he's our financial guy. But as I was talking to him, in the play he performs, he mentions that all of the proceeds from you buying a ticket to watch his play, Yield of Dreams, goes to the vets. And he's from New England. And Tor, if you're up in Boston area, everything gets grouped into quick words. So vets could be in the American Legion, the DAV, right, whatever. So while we were doing my interview and my wife for our financial side, I'm like, hey, Charlie, what's this vets money you give? Because I've got an organization and we could use money. He says it's called Creative Vets, and I'll give you the quick vignette. The guy who founded Creative Vets, combat deployed, all kinds of mental health issues, gets to the point where he's going to do it, right? And then divine intervention, etc. He gets this epiphany. Music and art have always been my solace, my peace. I'd like to go ahead and see if that's one last shot at keeping me alive, no pun intended. So he did. He started going and painting, and he started making music. So his foundation, basically, and I'll give you the quick run. So it's Creative Vets. I'll give him the plug. Tor, if you felt that your life was so that you're on the edge of the abyss, you would call them, do the interview, and they would fly you to Netflix to tell your story, your entire story, to world-trained musicians. After date 1.5, will then write your song out of your words. And by the fourth day, you have your own song of your life's journey in the military. And, not a dry in the place on that fourth day, but they've not had one attempt from any of their graduates. It's been a life-altering event. So anyway, Charlie tells me about this, and I'm like, well, shit. Yeah, your money's better spent sending it to those guys, because that's amazing.
Yeah.
But again, Creative Vets only gets involved for somebody that stops before they pull that trigger and do the ultimate worst decision of their life. So I said to Charlie, financial is up there in the top 3 of why we hear soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines, Coasties, Space Force are killing themselves, veterans killing themselves. I said, could you create a financial program to help these guys, regardless of their state, and make them better? You've been in the financial field for 42 years. You're a multimillionaire. He goes, I don't know. And I said, well, here's the deal. You think about it, but I'll let you go right now and tell you that if you don't come on board with me, 22 veterans are going to die tomorrow, and it's your fault. And he just looked at me, and I was just being really ballsy because I needed this guy. Well, I'll spare your listeners the vulgarity he gave me the next day, but he called me back and he said, I couldn't stop thinking about you. You kept me up all night, blah, blah, blah. Those are the vulgarities. But you seem like a force of nature. I'm in. So Charlie has written a financial get well plan for anybody that's a veteran or in the military to work through and get your act together and have a great life. So then we went after fitness, talked to Randy Hetrick, who invented the TRX straps, former Navy SEAL, Navy commander, about the mind, body, spirit. We got to get these guys healthy. So we're looking at a model where we'd be able to do PT, for your listeners who know, at a DAV or American Legion a couple times a week with TRX. Is specifically for the camaraderie and to get healthy, not to go drink and smoke like the traditional DAVs and American Legions have been known to do. And if you haven't noticed, they're hurting for membership. So their buy-in, while not universal, has been like, well, it's going to get us new people here, yeah, in droves. So we went after the physical. But then I met, well, let me digress and tell you, my personal dentist has been on a journey for the last 10 years to get the medical insurance industry to recognize dentists are an exceptional way to screen patients for the just simple vitals, blood pressure, pulse oximetry, temperature, and then when they get them in the chair, to look at your whole, maxillofacial structure. Are there abnormalities? Are you having issues when you're breathing? Are you a mouth breather, et cetera, et cetera? They're the front door to sleep hygiene. So the medical industry or medical insurance industry wasn't really a player in that. But through her discussions with me, I got to meet Dr. Jim O'Brien, who's the #1 sleep MD in Connecticut, and listen to his thesis that everything begins and ends with sleep hygiene. The dude was brilliant. And he told me a story I shared with you, Tor, about he can spot literally when someone walks in a room if they suck their thumb excessively when they were children, because it changes the whole structure of their face. And he said, and it's not sucking your thumb for comfort because you got scared. It's one of those that you saw when you were a kid and you remember vividly. This person never took their thumb out of their mouth.
Yeah.
Well, what they didn't know, because they're kids and their parents didn't know because they're just parents, was they permanently misshaped the cleft, the palate in their mouth. So excessive thumb suckers have not only changed the shape of their face, they set themselves on a journey for irregular sleep for their entire adult life. Mind blowing, right? Like who can spot a thumb sucker in a crowd? Dr. O'Brien. So I took his theory and then I took it into the next level, which was, okay, Doc, I have a journey. And I explained to him about the military, etc. And here's the conclusion. After talking with them and looking at things from a warrant officer technical perspective, I believe that everything begins and ends with a good night's sleep. And I'm not trying to sell mattresses and get into commercials,
You're not selling
but no
pillows?
shit. You don't sleep.
Yeah.
I don't sleep. Most of our peers on this call, we think we sleep. We don't sleep. And we don't even know how bad we don't sleep or our challenges because we're not trained.
Right.
So what Elpis started as going after specific symptoms, financial, physical fitness, nutrition, is now dwarfed into, we really believe if we can get you a good night's sleep and we can bring that out into a pattern, which then becomes a habit, everything else is doable. Everything else is doable. So with that said, the journey is now kind of taken a pivot point to, we're still building all of these lines of effort with buy-in on how we're going to go after each individual specific circumstance. But most importantly, we're going after sleep. So we've pushed out this questionnaire, and you were very, very supportive. Thank you for taking it. That's going to identify from the questions what we need to use, because the other cool thing on this journey is we're building an AI model that can take the data we're giving them from the survey, coinciding with, we're going to start a beta group very shortly of those survey participants that identify sleep issues. And what we're looking to do is prove what we firmly believe we're 100% certain of, which is you got messed up sleep, your life's shit. And if we can get your sleep back, we're going to make your life better. And how we're going to make it better is we're going to tailor your recovery specifically to what your individual shitstorms are in your life. Like, man, I can't balance my checkbook. Well, no shit, you haven't slept in 20 years, right? Or things like that. So in the of where we're going, nobody wants to talk to us unless we can do two things. We have a working model that shows veterans that participate come out and get better. And that 22 a day, arbitrary that it is, we can prove it's going down because the participants who become the successful graduates, that's the new tribe. That's the tribe that then, almost to use it's a successful organization in the way it peer supports. But Alcoholics Anonymous, you join for life. The commonality is we're all alcoholics. Hi, I'm Pat, I'm an alcoholic, right? I'm not, but the premise we're looking to get to is, hey, Tor, I'm a survivor, brother. And let me tell you about my story, because you need to hear my story so you believe that what Nelligan and crew are doing through Elpis will help you too. So don't keep ignoring your screwed up sleep. Let me tell you what screwed up sleep is truly looking like. And then the other fascinating thing to tell your listeners is what I told you about last night, a company called Nureem that was founded by another peer of mine, retired Brigadier General Rob Cooley, has taken the 70 plus year old model of an EEG with electrodes to your head, which is incredibly inaccurate in so much that I'm already sleeping difficult. And now you're going to put electrodes into my scalp and you're going to tell me to sleep in one particular location for the entire study. And I turn all night. So I've never had a successful EEG. He has invented and has patented technology to take those electrodes and put them into a pillowcase where the material is actually the transmitter, the electrode. So you can sleep however you want, toss and turn all night. As long as your face is in contact with that pillowcase, we'll be able to get real, honest to God, usable EEG data. And that'll take us into analyzing the alpha, beta, gamma, theta waves to the extent of what it should be in a good night's sleep and allow us to tailor for you, because it's going to be Bluetooth to a box on your nightstand, if you will, that'll upload so we can have real-time analysis from our sleep experts. Go, yeah, you got 2 hours of an actual deep sleep, maybe it was an hour and a half, and then through the rest of it, you're just a hot mess. So this is what we're going to do. We're doing an oral exam, which is part 2 of the survey, and we'll look at, do you have any malformities? Do you have a deviated septum? Are you overweight where your palate is soft and fall back, you're snoring? Do you have sleep apnea? Once that's identified, then we make the next iteration, which is we got to get you the things that you need. Do you need one of those mouth guards? Do you need a CPAP machine? And if any of those are needed, we get them, and then you start a 6 to 8 week group, like a little support group. You're sleeping. Now we're going to talk about what we do to get you to your very tailored individual get well plan of everything else wrong with you, because we have all these resources that we've marshaled that's ready to come on board and help us. So Elpis is Greek for hope. And that was what we needed to instill to every single person that's had those just traumatic events, life-altering things that have made them just say, I don't want to do this anymore. No, dude, there's always hope. There's always hope. And all you have to do, truly, is believe in what we're going to give you. There's a tribe that's going to support you, and you're going to do great things. Like, life is going to be much better for you, and you're going to help us extrapolate that out to the masses, because we can't do it with just a handful of people. But you give me 1,000 people and tell me, I'm going to get funding in perpetuity to give these guys the support they need, and we'll change the world. And then that'll be the actual time that somebody can say, well, how do you know you made an impact? Because I've got 8,000 people that would have been at 22 a day that aren't. Go ask them.
Yeah.
And now we're going after the world. In the end state, to finish that thought, the VA is the largest healthcare provider in the world. The DOD is what created us, warriors. They need this program, and they're only going to buy into this program. And I don't mean from a financial way, but from a credibility, by us coming to them with a literal army that said, you got to do this. Just like the burn pits finally got recognized. And I told you, what I tell you, Tor, when they first diagnosed my cancer 5 years ago, the way the VA disability rating scheme was recognized, they didn't attribute my particular cancer to burn pit and medical waste exposure. So I had to have my right upper lung taken out, and they gave me zero compensation for it because it didn't match one of the cancers. Once the burn pit legislation passed, then they recognized me. But I don't know if, well, I do know. I mean, I'm an optimist. I have a 0% rating as a cancer survivor because they said I'm too healthy, which I'll take. All right. I'm good.
Yeah, that's a good rating to have.
Yeah,
Pat,
yeah. But
Pat, I wanna say I
yeah.
really appreciate your unique approach. You said something yesterday when we were talking about how it's such a nuanced issue. You can't have like a blanket approach for everyone that's dealing with PTSD, TBI, suicidal ideation. And my buddy Reed, one of the hosts on the show, he's eventually trying to, and he doesn't think it'll ever get done. So I wanted to ask you what you think about this. He said that it's just a theory, but he believes that the VA or the DOD should do mental health screenings before people join the military. But he thinks it'll never get done because you see, there's a lot of people that won't get to go into the military because of how they grew up. And so he he says a lot, and he's the one that we're talking about when we were talking earlier about what he wants to do with his dissertation.
Yeah.
He said that he believes that a lot of people, when we served in Iraq, we were never supposed to serve in Iraq. I grew up in Sacramento. I did a lot of street things, a lot of I was doing a lot of stupid stuff in the street as a young kid.
Yeah.
And when we went to Iraq and we had to do what we did, it didn't seem as scary as if I had grown up with like a silver spoon. But he says if you look back, they were never supposed to give somebody like me a gun. That's what he said.
Yeah.
So you know, having that one-on-one approach that you mentioned is important. I want you to go back and talk about your full approach. You said you mentioned the TRX. I know you talked about a gym. I know you talked about golf courses. I know you talked about school. And I know, again, it's all about getting to that one person and finding out what is, and sleep is a big part of it, but that one person, what is their problem? What's gonna be the solution to the suicidal ideation or the problems they're facing? So
So
I
that
know I asked you a lot, but
no.
go ahead.
Well, let me get your battle buddies answer straight. So we do mental health screening. In fact, the Army realized, because we're the largest force,
Mhm.
that the population we're recruiting is not to the level of standard you were recruited under. So we came up with a pre-basic training that's 10 weeks long, specifically to get them in physical and mental shape and up their aptitude test taking so they can do well on the ASVAB.
Okay.
So you show up, you're contracted for 10 weeks, you go through the program, and you're given a choice. After you take your ASVAB again and you take the ACFT, Army Combat Fitness Test, and you succeed, you can go home in much better shape and have, that academic enhancement, or you can join the Army because you've met the baseline.
Okay.
That indoctrination, that inculcation of 10 weeks with basically an exit strategy has made such a difference in how we go after our recruiting numbers that we made mission. So it's a lot of extra effort, but this population, and I have children. My son's a first lieutenant, Army reservist, military intelligence. And if you would have told me when he was playing high school football as a nose guard that he'd have anything to do with military intelligence, I would have laughed my ass off. But and multiple concussions to boot. But the point
Yeah.
is, I'm a parent and I'm telling you, the kids behind my son, what motivates them, what they've been sheltered from that you and I, it was just the course of growing up, really sets them up to what your battle buddy's talking about, which is they're broken to begin with. Now we put them into
Yeah.
the machine, and again, taking that plug, we give them sleep deprivation, we give them a culture that doesn't really embrace their individuality. We teach them how to be lethal, and then we say, "Come do this. Come go perform this mission, etc." Well, the coping mechanisms most of us and them and the people that came before us used was the tribe. We got
Yeah.
through because you're having a bad day, and I go by and go, "Tor, just suck it up, dude. Let's go get a beer. We'll talk this shit out." Like what this podcast is about. We're talking shit out, right?
Yeah.
Well, the challenge is, what happens when I get off of active duty? Boom. Or what happens as a reservist when I only see you twice a month and the other 28 days I'm on my own dealing with a world of shit? It compounds to the level where all of a sudden I can't deal with it anymore. So to his point, I can mental health screen literally to the point where I put nobody in the military. But the biggest challenge was when we were doing the surge, when you were in, to try to, counter ISIS, or not ISIS, but when you were in,
Taliban.
the
Yeah.
Taliban, Fallujah, we were taking a lot of people below the cut.
I
And
know.
because we needed bodies.
That's how I made it in. That's how I made
So,
it
but
in.
stop beating yourself up because you've changed lives and the rebound didn't click. But that's the particular thing now, which as everything else I told you, I think unique because I'm betting the fort on sleep deprivation as the root cause. But the magic formula is this AI model we're building can take reams of data and create clusters that are unable to be analyzed in any other way. So, for example, as you answer the questionnaire, I do an oral exam on you and we find out you've got some shit going on. I put that into the AI model. I come up with a tailored plan for Mr. Tor to get better. And I give you the support network and I give you the way ahead. And to your mention, I'm glad you reminded me. I've got another organization I'm meeting with tomorrow that I've had contact with. They're called the Quell Foundation, Quell. And the founder is a former Navy submariner, Kevin Lynch. And his journey has been to go after suicides in the police, fire, first responder, and EMS community because their numbers are pretty bad too. But what's interesting about his journey is he not only tries to help them, get better, but people that have attempted, thought of attempting, have turned their life around, they have become so super funded by corporate donations. They offer 4-year scholarships, 2 and 4-year scholarships, if you want to go get trained as a mental health provider. I mean, think about that. That's the ultimate forward, because you can listen to me bitch all day about my woes, but you could really help me if you were trained, right, and knew how to get me to that next level. So that's the other component that ELPIS is taking on. Is why we call it the ELPIS Alliance. Is there's great organizations out there that all have niches on what they're trying to do to impact the suicide numbers. Mission 22, Stop Soldier Suicide, to name a few. But they suffer from 2 problems. They're so hyper-focused on one particular solution set, and they have to raise donations every year to stay in operation. Mm-hmm. So by growing this ELPIS model, what we're expecting to achieve is these organizations that we vet that are on the right path of helping as an aggregate are going to be able to give you that second layer of, okay, Stop Soldier Suicide, their interventional program, you wear a Garmin watch for an entire year and you get data. Okay, what are they doing with the data? Well, the early stages are they're giving you, what they can out of the Garmin electronically produced, your oxygen saturation, how you were sleeping, etc. But if you don't aggregate that into a larger population and look at the patterns, I can just tell you, Tor, you weren't sleeping. Well, shit, I already knew that. I didn't need the Garmin watch for it. But let me do that number against 8,000 others. And the good thing is my partner, Court, he had a discussion with Garmin. They're already in the stages of giving us deep discounts. So the long-term approach is we're going to get Garmin into this too. So in that tribe mentality, the participants in the study, you're getting a Garmin watch. We're going to keep you in the support network. We're going to tailor through the AI model, particular to right down to your almost DNA, what you Tor need. And since we're both successful graduates of EBV, I get a good night's sleep for a couple months and I decide, man, I want to be an entrepreneur. Well, we can help you there too. Call Tor. Get you enrolled in EBV. So it's not a panacea. Like, I don't think I'm going to save everybody, because there are some that are just, they're going to take their life. We had to make peace with it. But 22 a day, 42 a day, I'll tell you this. For every 1 suicide, the number I hear over and over is 33 on average are affected by 1 suicide. Right. So you extrapolate that out, and that could be 1/10 of the entire United States population every year that's impacted by one veteran, or by the veteran suicide compilation. So we're going after that. And like, the goal isn't, well, we want to knock down 2. No, we want to bring hope to our entire peer group and tell them you're valuable. You're going to be able to do great things like what you're doing. You want to start your own business. You're going to hire veterans, get more jobs. And we really can change the world. And that's the mission we're on.
So I want to direct people to this QR code up here. If you scan the QR code with your phone, you'll be able to see the sleep. It's called Rest Recon. It's a survey that you take. It's about 4 minutes to go through the survey. And it asks very important questions. You talk about theta waves. I know we were talking yesterday, and lately, I went through a divorce a couple of years back, and I thank my ex-wife, because I've been, in the past, I was so stressed out, I didn't really have time. It's kind of like she saved me from dealing with the effects of trauma. But now that I live alone, I want to be mindful of my sleep. I want to be mindful of my time because I don't deal with PTSD with the depression part. I deal with the I have so much energy that I want to help out people so they don't go through what I went through. And sometimes I forget to eat during the day. Sometimes I forget to sleep. So I remember we talked yesterday and I started saying affirmations to myself.
Yeah.
And I play that on loop to these a certain amount of hertz. So as I'm in those theta waves, I can have a better sleep. And I'm getting about 6 hours. It's interrupted because I'm old, right? I got to wake up and go take a leak. That might be something we look into if there's a way to like connect the tube to the
Well,
tip to put into the toilet or something.
listen, I gotta tell you something else. And because I love the fact that this podcast is us at the smoke pit.
Yeah.
There's a pretty good chance most of your listeners are going, shit, I gotta piss once, twice, 3 times.
Once or twice at least, yeah.
Yeah. So let me just give you from the medical side in my brain a couple vignettes. One, it's a very good chance you got an enlarged prostate, which is going to affect your total evacuation of your bladder anyway. But what these sleep experts have been telling me, Tor, and again, I highly encourage you to get a sleep study, at least do the oral exam with our doctors, is what you think is waking you up to pee is actually waking up because you stopped breathing. And when you
Oh,
stop breathing, your brain automatically goes, oh, I'm awake. Oh, shit, I got to go to the bathroom. If you got a good night's sleep, there's a high probability you're not going to have to piss once. And that's a great goal to have for us guys. And and the other love this. I love this forum. And then the other component to it is everybody's DNA dictates how much is you're required, but on average, your sleep. General McChrystal, who's an incredible warrior, incredible author, very influential guy, that dude rides on 4 hours of sleep. He's rail thin. He gets up, he'll go out and run 5 miles in the morning, but he's on 4 hours of sleep because that's what his body needs. And I ran this by the sleep experts, and I'm like, yeah, that's how he's DNA wired. I'm like, man, could I imagine what I could do if I only needed 4 hours of sleep? Well,
no, right?
unfortunately, not General McChrystal. I'm not 6'2", rail thin, special operator. But anyway, you may need, surprisingly, 5 hours because your brain being on hyper, speed because you want to fix things and make things better for people may be also why you're so good at what you do. But you got to find a sweet spot where
Yeah.
for 5 solid hours, you don't have to take a piss. And
Yeah.
that's going to be for an ultimate goal. And the other side I bring you is like your public service announcement is, well, I don't put a lot of faith in, PSA readings for your prostate. We're at an age now, you can't overlook that shit. So it's really worth getting some baseline because, again, tied to my exposure, from the month I got back from my first deployment, my PSA levels just kept growing. And I don't have prostate cancer, thank God, but I had cancer. So when I was talking to the oncologist, there is correlations between when you're exposed to shit and what can affect you. So all that comes back to say is, and I know we're going to run out of time, don't ignore symptoms because you think, oh, I'm getting old. I thought I was running out of breath because I was old. I had a nectarine tumor on my right upper lung. I was
Pat,
stupid.
let me tell you the worst thing about having to take a piss at night. You have a dream where you go and take a piss. So if you take there's two levels of piss you can take in your dream. There's the fake piss, and then you're like, let me lean in, let me take a better piss. And so that's the worst piss to take in your dream. So now I'm on high alert because I'm not gonna piss the bed, man. I'm on high alert.
Yeah.
But it's funny that you say I might just need 5 hours of sleep. I have a friend and she was telling me to get more rest, get more rest. Because about 2 days ago, I only slept for about 3 hours. I'm training another company to do what I do, and she was getting on my case. She said, "You need to sleep. You work so much." And I told her, I said, "It doesn't feel like work. And when I go to sleep in my dreams, I'm doing what I'm doing when I'm awake." So I don't know if that's ever happened to you, but the
Oh,
way
yeah.
I know that I'm dreaming is I have all my hair. So that's when I'm like, no, I gotta wake up and go take a leak. Because if I do this, so But let's get into, you were talking to me about if someone's grinding their teeth in their sleep, you want to know about. And that was a question actually on the survey. I used to grind my teeth in 2020 after the split with my ex-wife.
Yeah.
I would wake up and my jaws would be sore. I would wake up sweating. Just that has to do with sleep problems, right? Or
Yeah.
anxiety or stress.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Yeah.
again, TMJ, uh, the muscles that are around your jaw, when you're stressed, you clench. Now you get to a point where, for an exercise for your listeners, take your hand, make a fist, and hold it for a minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes. Naturally, it's going to loosen up because you're going to have the muscle
Right.
because of the way your jaw is wired. When your brain and you're having an episode or you're having stress, that muscle can stay clenched for literally an entire night's sleep. So after I don't know, some interval, let's say a couple weeks, you overdevelop the muscles. So now they become almost like pit bull. And now the strength that your jaws are capable of delivering as you overdevelop them, it just keeps propagating into what's the most point of failure? Your teeth are going to crush.
Yeah.
Now you've got fractures, you've got cavities, and the other piece is, while they want you to nose breathe, if you're clenched, it changes the whole way you're breathing in and exhaling. So you've got this like steel trap of a mouth hinged down, and you're trying to pass airflow through. And remember, I don't know how you sleep all night, but I'm moving around. Like I feel like I'm swimming in the net, right? So now you change the angle of your taking in the air, the way your neck is positioned, and all the while your teeth are clenched. It's a recipe for eventually sleep apnea because you change the whole mechanics of your face. So to that point, root cause analysis, just simple. You were stressed, dude. And
I was stressed, yeah.
So now you've got quality of life. You're doing positive affirmation statements, but you're still getting up to piss. So there's something still deep down in there, and it isn't just bladder control. And they say to you, "Oh, you need good sleep hygiene. Don't drink an hour before you go to bed." Well, that doesn't even matter to me. Probably doesn't matter to you. I'm still getting
No, it
up
doesn't. Yeah.
because we're waking up, and our body completely goes into, "Oh, time to get up. Got to go do this. Damn it." So if I could just stay in bed, I could probably get myself back to sleep quicker. It isn't like that.
That interrupted sleep is what sucks because
Yep.
you'll have a good 2 hours and then like you say you got to get up to go take a leak. I didn't realize that we went over an hour. It feels like we've been talking like 5 minutes. We got to have you back on the show.
I'm
I
in.
know that I wanted to talk more with you about fitness.
Let's do it.
I got buddies that do golf for veterans. They do veteran golf as a stress reliever. And I know yesterday you said that you put these Connex, I think Connex boxes that are mobile gyms on the
Yeah.
golf course.
Yeah.
But before we go, just briefly talk about that. We'll have you on. I'll make sure we have you on next week because we need to continue this. I'm
Okay.
really enjoying this.
Yeah. I love you to death. I'll be there whenever you need me. So here's the deal.
Love you too, Pat.
Court, my partner, is a avid golfer, and that was part of his therapy. So he jumped into the Veterans Golf Association. So he's a big player, no pun intended, but he's really good at golf. I suck. It is what it is. So he's got connections there. We'll hook you up with that. I think Court is actually listening in, but we'll take that. You met him via the text. We can extrapolate that out. What happened with golf was when Randy was getting his company back, TRX, he created a new line of effort, which was called Outfit. And what he did was he took his patented TRX straps and created a new type of weight called a Y-bell, which is a kettlebell and a dumbbell, and then decided, look, I can let you, through my app, get a complete workout with my TRX straps, or I can go after the tribe mentality and I can get lots of you. And then, us discussing with him about DAVs, American Legions, VFWs early on, that was a strategy. He's like, yeah, I want to do this, to the point, Tor, he was willing to franchise those boxes to a veteran who wanted to start their own business for $80,000. Like, where are you going to start a gym for 80 grand? Just the brick and
Right.
mortar alone, right?
Right.
Like, that's how exciting this was starting. Well, behind the scenes, Comcast was starting to, as a corporate focus, buy like second and third tier golf courses. So nothing like, Augusta, but something that you see down the street. You can go drive golf balls, and the greens are so badly maintained it'll bounce for 50 more yards. Because, well, anyway, they decided that was a strategy they wanted to do. So they went after and started buying these golf courses and rehabbing them to get my son's generation interested in golf. One of the first things they were hearing in their refurbished courses when they were entertaining potential members was, where's the gym? And they had never taken that as their corporate strategy to build a country club. They wanted to make a nice golf course.
Yeah.
So the kids are like, well, if you don't have a gym, I don't want to join. So through the back door, they start finding out that Randy and his gyms in the boxes can do up to 40, I think it's 42 individuals can participate in one mass workout. But if you put it in a structure like alongside a clubhouse, you've got a fully functioning gym. Yeah. So overnight, he gets this incredible opportunity. So he's focused on that, growing that. But to the point of the future in my world of giving our veteran brothers and sisters the ability to stay in shape is getting them together at a location that works for all of them, at a rent interval that's, just like PT in the old days, several times a week. But now I've got the entire spectrum of what you need to get in shape taken care of by one guy in a box, and that's the future.
Yeah. Man, I love it. I love it. I can't wait to talk with you again. We put a few comments. We normally read our comments, but we flash them across the bottom. For those of you that are listening, we want you to go ahead and click the survey if you're a veteran or a first responder. Click the survey, because Pat's right. You do need that good night's sleep. Once you're less stressed, then the problems of life don't seem as big. I talked with my ex-wife the other day, and I actually told her, hey, I appreciate what you did, because if you didn't leave, I wouldn't have so much joy waking up every morning. I wouldn't have the quality of life I have right now. And no shot against her. Everyone. I'm grateful for her. I'm grateful for everything life has thrown at me. So, and Pat, I'm grateful for you for blessing us with your presence on the Smoking and Joking show. Thank you for attacking suicide with such vigor. And I really do believe you're going to make a considerable dent. You have me, you have my company, you have my nonprofit, you have, anytime you want to stop by the show, anytime, just let me know. You have an open invitation. And I can't wait to see all the great work that we're going to continue to do in the future.
And I love you for it. Anything I can do for you, you know it. On a side note, the gentleman that you had told me about reached out. I think we're going to be able to help him. That's a good. And tell me when you want to come back, and we'll make it happen. Much more to talk about.
We need to get you on next week, because I want to talk about skiing. I want to talk about your journey through cancer. I want to talk about, the entrepreneurial journey, because EBV, you've seen things, and of course what you can divulge, but there's a lot to talk about. I think yesterday your wife might have gotten a little bit mad at you because you're only supposed to talk an hour, but you went over. And okay, I won't make her mad at you again today. We got almost 10 minutes over. Pat, thank you. This has been another episode of Smoking and Joking, guys, and we'll see you guys on Sunday. Bye, everybody.
Have a good night.